Ah, the chameleon. Now you can find a chameleon at pretty much every Petco or PetSmart. They're usually at the end cap. Now these pet stores will have you believe that these guys can make great Christmas presents. They'll probably even have a sale on them. I mean, just take a look at this. Chameleon with a little Santa hat? Of course that means it's gonna make a great Christmas present for the average reptile lover. Right? Well, the short version of this video is going to be, no, it absolutely isn't. There are many reasons why you would not get a chameleon without knowing the proper care with everything you're getting into, and we're actually going to explain all of those reasons in this video today. So drop the keys, sit on the couch, and let's talk about the reality of owning a chameleon. Stick around and subscribe if you're new. Would love to have you around. Alright Dakota, so you have our attention, but what really makes the chameleon just not a good pet? Why would we not want to go out and get a chameleon? Well, let's talk about a couple things and a couple of reasons why. Most of this video we are going to be centering it towards the veiled chameleon. Not only do I have most of my personal experience with veiled chameleons, but they seem to be the most common chameleon kept and sold over at pet stores for the cheapest price, which is the most bought one because it's a lower price, and that's probably honestly one of the worst chameleons you can get, if we're being honest. Number one on why you should not get a chameleon is going to be the sensitivity that the animal really is. Of course, over here at DVCB Exotics, we own quite a few animals. Somewhere over 100 or so, and the chameleon has to be one of the most sensitive animals out of all of those. Now, you're taking a number over 100, we're saying the chameleon is the worst when it comes to sensitivity. That should probably mean just a little bit of something. These chameleons definitely need their husbandry dialed in 100% to the T. You're gonna need that correct basking temperature, the correct UVB bulb, the correct humidity, the correct enclosure size, the correct decorations in the enclosure, the correct substrate, and so on. A lot of things need to be done. Vitamin intake and diet, another huge thing of the chameleon. We can't leave that out. Pretty much the gist of what I'm getting at. A lot of things need to be done to ensure that your chameleon lives that healthy life. Not to mention that healthy life is quite a short amount of life. Chameleons only living an average of 6 to 8, maybe 10 years if you're lucky. I mean, if you are really going headstrong on everything right, you might be able to squeeze a decade out of that animal. Now, 10 years may seem a long time to some small animal lovers, you know, when we're talking about hamsters or rodents that have quite a small life cycle, but comparatively speaking with reptiles, it's a little bit strange. Most reptiles living in the 15 to 25 plus year range. An animal that lives only a fraction of that is a little bit strange, even when you're doing everything right. But now let's go a little bit in depth on what that care really requires. That's adequate basking temperature, making sure that you have some sort of heat source, whether that be a ceramic heat emitter, UVA bulbs such as basking lights, and anything of that nature. Now, personally, I find basking lights to be the best, but, you know, whatever floats your boat. So adequate basking lights with those adequate temperatures. You're going to need adequate UVB. This isn't something you can throw that compact coil UVB garbage on. No, you're going to need the best of the best. A linear T5 high output UVB bar spanning the 50 to 100% of the cage's width. You're going to make sure that you get that T5 high output because, of course, chameleons being arboreal, they're going to have a very tall cage. Speaking of a tall cage, they do need a pretty big cage. If we just pan right over there, you will see Yoshi the chameleon's enclosure. Now, Yoshi, only being about a juvenile to a subadult, somewhere around that 10-month-old age, is sitting in a 2 foot by 2 foot by 4 foot enclosure. And personally for me, while this is the minimum adult size, I honestly believe that a chameleon should get a bigger enclosure, and he will get an upgrade when he turns into an adult. Now, this is a really big enclosure just off the hand. Now, not only do you have a very big enclosure, you also need to decorate the full enclosure. Make sure that it has everything as enriching and physically enriching and both mentally enriching that a reptile would need and a chameleon would need. That being live plants. Live plants seem to be the best. Of course, we have a few live plants going on, a nice big pot of pothos. Then, of course, the umbrella plant. Not only that, we have multiple sticks that we wedged in through the background that we custom made. So we've got twigs going both horizontally, vertically, diagonally. We've got a jungle gym for this tiny little chameleon, a chameleon that is about this big, everything that he will need just to make sure we can squeeze, again, that 6 to 10 years out of the chameleon and make sure that nothing detrimental is going on with him. Oh, but it does not stop there, folks. Let's talk about diet and vitamins. Of course, chameleons are going to need a large variety of their diet. Their diet being insects, they are insectivores. They'll need a variety of bugs, spanning with mealworms, superworms as occasional treats. More of a staple being crickets and dubia roaches, some waxworms, BSFLs as just a little bit of a dessert, a treat, a snack, if you will. A nice variety, making sure that your chameleon has everything it needs in its nutrition out of the bugs that it eats. This isn't something you can just throw the bugs in and call it a day. No, you're also going to need dust those bugs with some vitamins and minerals, making sure that, again, the chameleon gets everything it needs out of those bugs. Now, this again isn't something you just throw the calcium powder on, throw it in, and you're good to go. They actually need to stick to quite a rigid vitamin schedule, going with calcium without D3, calcium with D3, and your standard herb fights, your herb vitamins, everything that the minerals and vitamins, I don't really know what's in it. They just tell me to put it in it once a month, and that's what I do. Going to need all of those things, and it's going to require you as the keeper to make sure you stick on that regimen to make sure it gets everything that it needs in order to live a nice, I wouldn't say long, but a full life. Without offering all the care that I briefly brushed upon, if you guys want to get more in depth, I did make a care guide right here. Your chameleon can suffer very dire consequences. Again, this is an animal that is very sensitive, and a sensitive animal that's not getting cared for the right way equals expensive exotic vet trips. Something that you just don't want to do. It's going to stress the animal out, it's going to put a giant hole in your wallet, and it's just something you want to avoid. So if you are thinking about taking on the chameleon, make sure you do a little research beforehand. Make sure you got the enclosure all set up, you got it good to go, you got the plants in there, the sticks, the lights, get it running, get checking those temperatures with a digital thermometer, and an infrared thermometer, and just make everything's all set before you impulse buy and bring that chameleon home. So I kind of contradicted myself right there. Usually you don't think ahead. Impulse buying means you don't think ahead when you, okay. All right, Dakota, so you're just saying I gotta care for it a little bit. I gotta do a little bit of research, throw some lights on, and I'm good to go. I mean, is that really it? Well, no, that's not really it. Not only is the chameleon a very sensitive pet that requires expensive and a lot of things to care for it, also, in my opinion, they just don't make the best pets. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Yoshi. Yoshi is one of my favorite reptiles over here at DBC Big Exotics, and I have no better time than interacting with him. However, that interaction is really halted at looking at him. Chameleons really seem to be in only of a display animal, a kind of look, don't touch type pet. Not only do chameleons stress very easily, of course, stress leads to sensitivity, leads to immune, you know, words are just hard sometimes. Not only will it lead to ill effects, but they also just don't like it. They really don't like human interaction. They don't like being habitualized. Veiled seem to be the worst out of all of them. They seem to be the most, hey, really, no, really, just please don't touch me. You'll see this stress display in a multiple different ways, going from the first signs being the stress spots, these little green polka dots that they get when they don't want to be messed with. They'll go into a stance of a little karate chop style, looking like they're going to do a little kung fu action on you. And then lastly, they'll start with their last defense mechanism, snarling, getting their mouth gaping, things like that, even lunging and trying to bite at you if you really are not being a smart person and ignoring all of those signs. It's really just something that you don't want to touch it. You don't want to mess with it. It doesn't want to mess with you. You just get to look at it. Make sure you build a really cool little cage, because honestly, I kind of lose him sometimes. All that green, he's green. But the cage looks cool, and that's what matters. At the end of the day, some of the words I would categorize the veiled chameleon as is shy, reclusive, angry boy. There really isn't much prose when it comes to the chameleons, and at the end of the day, if it's something that you're not truly dedicated in and really working hard into making sure that the chameleon has everything it's need, it's gonna fall short, it's gonna be bad for the animal's probably gonna pass away, and it's just not fun for either of you. The animal doesn't make it, and you kind of feel crappy afterwards because you bought this chameleon and then he passes. I just really don't see a bright side to any of it. Of the story, do your proper research and don't impulse anything. That's really what this series is about. We're going into the most popular animals that people seem to impulse buy and telling you not to do that and stating some reasons why. Now, this isn't a video going into, why chameleons are awful pets and why no one should have one. I don't believe that for a fact. I stated it a little bit earlier, Yoshi is one of my favorite reptiles to work with and just watch. I love just coming into this reptile room, taking a plop on the other side of the room, just watching him move around. There's no better feeling than hand feeding or tongue feeding the chameleon, watching it shoot that sticky tongue and get its prey, walking around, maybe throw some crickets in there and let him hunt on his own. You always think chameleons are slow, like they're kind of always like, boop, 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 like sloth energy, big sloth energy out of that. Not when they're hunting. Yoshi yeets himself towards those crickets and then fires, gets them, eats. It's always an exciting time and a time I always enjoy. At the end of the day, chameleons are one of my favorite species to work with. However, even someone as myself, someone who's had experience with working with multiple species of reptiles for over 5 years, I don't feel confident enough to be working with not even 2 chameleons at the same time. It's just, I want to stick with one, I will make sure I do everything right. And again, this video isn't trying to gatekeep chameleons, you know, I'm not trying to be showing them as an awful light, an awful animal, but I do want to show some things about what really chameleons are like. For maybe some people out there that are thinking about buying a chameleon for a Christmas present, maybe for a local friend that happens to be a reptile keeper, maybe for their son or their daughter that really likes reptiles. At the end of the day, don't choose the chameleon, you know, there's plenty of other pets. Here's a video going to a lot easier pets that are not only wicked cool, but a lot easier to care for, and you're just gonna have a way better experience at the end of the day. Well guys, that is the end of the video. What did you think about it? You think I'm on point? Did I stop you? Did you hold your horses before you left for the pet store? You sat down, you watched this video, and you thought, you know what, Dakota, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe I actually won't end up getting a chameleon. Thank you. You showed me the error of my ways. You showed me the light at the end of the dark tunnel. Or are you like, nah boy, you dumb, I'm getting 2 chameleons now. I guess all I have to say to that is good luck. If you enjoyed this video, maybe drop down a like down there. If you want to check me out a couple of places, I'm always on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, last but certainly not least, Patreon. It's patreon.com/dbcbexotics. This is where you get the inside scoop about what everything is going on within my breeding business. DBCB Exotics. This includes a plethora of gecko products we got going, you know, New Caledonian stuff, tokays, caves, almost slipped what the secret project was. That was a close one, guys. We've got a lot of projects going on, mostly with geckos, some cool large lizards like tegus as well. It's a lot to think of. You get behind the scenes videos, first looks at new projects, you get first dibs on babies, even higher tiers, you get discounts on the babies I produce. Sounds all well and good now, right? If you guys want to get some more information about that or potentially buy a baby from me, you could go right down there in the description below is Patreon. You can't buy a baby. You don't have to buy a baby from Patreon. You can just join it. Ooh, this is a fantastic outro. Oh my God, I'm awful. Once again, folks, thank you so much for taking the time of your day to follow us over here at DBCB Exotics. We will see you next time, but until then, goodbye.